Welcome back, everybody, to the Being Mother Hustler podcast. I have my amazing Mother Hustler friend over here locally. Had coffee with her, and when I heard her story, I said to myself, that woman has to be on my podcast. And I'm blessed to have you, Dawn, because you're local. We've been trying to get this going for a very long time. You're busy. I'm busy. We're both busy, which, when you put two mother hustlers together, schedules are going to be tough to make happen. But we're here. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for asking me.
You're so welcome. So let's start with your childhood, because you and I have spoken about it. And I really believe that the childhood has a lot of impact on us. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my childhood, probably around 4 years old, my parents got divorced, and I don't really remember a lot before that. So that was a pretty impactful time. It wasn't a good divorce, that's for sure. If not like any are, but I remember being at the moment that I remember it the most is being at the top of my stairs, and there was photos of my brother and I that, those chalk photos that they used to do. So there was those at the top of the stairs of my brother and I, and he was sitting next to me and was crying because I could hear my parents downstairs fighting over us. And my dad was just not going to let us leave the house. So my mom left, and that was probably the last time I saw her for a couple years. So enter my stepmother. A couple years later, she was a very young mom, 18, and married my dad, who was 9 years older than her. And that was difficult because I was so looking for a mother figure, somebody to just love on me. And I remember just clinging to her, just didn't want to be alone if my dad wasn't around, and just clinging to her. But that relationship was something that actually impacted my life for a very long time, because it didn't turn out to be what you would hope it would be. But, I was just a little girl, and I think for me, that probably impacted my life the most, because that turned out to be a very verbally and physically abusive relationship as I grew up. So I don't know what happened as I was growing that made her become that way. And I don't think I made her become that way by any means, but I know that woman figure in my life impacted me a lot and made me make decisions for my future, in seeing the example I had in front of me that I didn't want to be and didn't want to do. And it actually scared me away from becoming a mom. I didn't want to. So, but now I have three beautiful children. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And two things that I kind of grasp from your story a little bit there is that you wanted her to be that mother figure. And now tell us, what exactly does that mean?
What does a mother figure mean to me?
Yeah.
I think.
Or what was it that you wanted from her as a mother?
I just wanted what I thought in my brain was a mom, and that was somebody to be affectionate with me, to be the person that I could run to, if I skinned my knee, or if something was hurting my feelings, or, and it just didn't turn out to be that way at all. I think especially as I grew, she had two children of her own, about 6 and 8 years in. And the minute she had those children was probably when it changed the most. And I remember feeling like, even though I heard her say, these are my children, she would always say after that, but these are I got to back up. She would say, these are my stepchildren, but I consider them all my children. But I remember thinking, that's not the truth, and so I guess to get back to your question, I was just looking for somebody that was my soft spot to go to.
Wow.
And I didn't have that.
You mentioned too that I thought that was very interesting, and you said I did not make her that way. Mm-hmm. And I think as a child and even as an adult, we tend to blame ourselves, and maybe we are the one that there's something wrong with us. That's why the person you want love from is acting the way they are.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
So how do you think that particular feeling carried on in your adult life and showed up in, sometimes what we feel as a child shows up in a very negative way when we deal with our lives as an adult?
Absolutely, and I could see that even in my choices. I didn't date a lot in high school, and I also will tell you that growing up, I felt like because of that relationship, I can see now, I felt like I had to earn love. Like it wasn't just given freely. I felt like I had to do things to earn it and be a certain way. Dang it! I knew you would make me cry. So
Hey, I warned you.
because of that. That bled into other relationships because everything that I did was because I thought I had to earn attention, love, friendship, all of that.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And this is why I just love hearing people's childhood because we carry it on with us for a very long time until, when they say you need to grow up, it's really when that borderline from when you carry it with you to the next moment on the other side of that, where you have grown up to be like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm not going to allow this to anchor me with whatever I want in life, whether that's becoming a mother, becoming a wife, becoming a badass professional, and just
Absolutely.
going forward because I think it holds you back, right?
Oh, for sure. I think that it affects every decision that I've made in my life, and not that I would change any of those decisions because they brought me to where I am today and made me the woman that I am. Which I feel I have self love now, which I also know that I didn't have a lot in the first probably 38 to 40 years of my life because that thinking was so skewed in thinking that everything was earned, instead of just freely given, which I did. I freely gave, but I didn't have the same expectation from other people. I thought I had to truly earn all of those things from them. So I guess when I say that is, in choosing my kids' father, he was my high school sweetheart and only the second boyfriend that I ever had because I wasn't allowed to date growing up. And I wouldn't change that decision, but there's definitely some things that if you look around, even at the person that you're choosing for a life mate, things that have impacted them growing up also should be very important. And I share that with my kids now. I think I used to go about it saying, don't marry your high school sweetheart, which I think was the wrong thing to say. I think the thing to say was, look at their upbringing, look at what they've dealt with, look at how far have they come from that, what things do they struggle with, because when you're 18 and you make those decisions to be with somebody, and I didn't marry him at 18, I married him at 25, but we were together since we were 17.
Wow.
When you're making those decisions, we're still growing up, and becoming who we are. I truly don't feel like, especially because I had kids from 25 to 30, I was still growing up because then you're thrust into that, arena of it's more about them than you, so I think there's a little bit of stunted growth there if you choose to have
Yep.
kids younger,
So true.
and so I think finally when I was 30 and they were kind of, I just had one young one at home and the other two were going to school, I kind of was like, back to me, well, what do I want now? What do I like? And those were questions that I still ask myself again at 38 when I got a divorce. What do I like? I think one of my friends came to me and said, well, what movie would you like to go see? And of course we spend the times always going to see kids movies that they want to see, and everything. And that becomes, I can recite lines from Toy Story verbatim, right? And all of those
Yeah.
things that were about them. So I remember sitting there thinking, what do I like? And that was, right after my divorce and really going, because all my kids were growing and, they were doing more about them than, me now. And just thinking, well, what do I like? So, but I don't know. It's funny.
I
You bring up memories in me as you ask these questions. So
Yeah, but I think, and you and I have a lot in common when it comes to when in our lifetime we became mothers. So I had my first child at 26, and then I had my second at 26 going on 27, and then I have my second right when I was turning 30. In fact, I spent my 30th birthday in the hospital with a C-section.
wow.
And
We
so,
do have similar stories. Yeah. I had my last one at 30.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and so you mentioned something that really I was in is that creating your own identity, because your identity, it's like your life stops for a little bit for
Absolutely. And I wouldn't choose anything different. I think I want to go back to, I really, because of my upbringing, I made choices in the relationship with my stepmom of, I don't want to be that kind of woman, because she was also very manipulative. And so I think you make a decision even at a very young age, and when you identify behaviors, that you're not going to do that. I made mental notes. I remember as early as 7 years old, and I was being abused at home already. And I went to tell my father, and he just worked tirelessly to provide for us. He, at one point when we moved to California, he was working 2 jobs and going to school full time and got double degrees in religion and psychology. But I think that he was so ingrained in providing for us. He had blinders on as to what was going on at home. So I went to him at one point, I remember, and told him that I don't remember how I said it, but I remember his answer, that she was being abusive. And she came in the room at that point and said something to the effect of that I was just being a dramatic little girl. And
Wow.
he believed her. And I remember thinking at 7 years old, I'm on my own. How am I going to get through till I can get out of here? And I also remember identifying the behaviors that she had, and I know what went on in her childhood. And I think that we can grow from that and be defined by it, or we can make different decisions. So I don't want to speak to that, but I do want to speak to the decisions I made. And that was to go, I don't want to have that behavior, and I don't want to have that behavior. And I want to be completely opposite of that.
Yeah.
I think I went really far the other way, and so I had to bring it back. But identifying very early on behaviors that I didn't want to have as a woman, and then deciding after my marriage, I do want to have children. And then having my first at 26 years old, like you, and being very scared. I mean, I remember sitting at home, and she was very colicky, and thinking, what if I screw this up? I don't even know if I can do this, because you and I do come from same backgrounds of childhood as well. And, you think about all those things, and I was freaked out for sure. So,
Yeah, I think
but she's
most
amazing.
moms, I see that. I think
Yes.
most moms are so freaked out during their first time, only because most of us grow up seeing our parents. And somebody asked me, like, what did you learn from your dad? Because I always talk about my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly enough, I said not to marry somebody like him. And it's really sad because I love my dad, because he's my dad forever.
Yes.
And to say that is sad, but at the same time, like you said, I wouldn't take anything back, because it made me not only the woman that I am today, but the mom that I am today, because I take a little bit of of knowledge from what my mom has done. And also, I also said to myself during my teenage years, is I'll never be abused like my mom.
Yes.
But then it showed up in a very different way, where I judged everybody based on my mom's experience,
Sure.
because like you went the whole way to the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Yep.
had to bring it back. And it also wiped clean the entire Filipino population, the men in the Filipino population. So you're judging an entire male race based on your
Sure.
father. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Which really, I know so many Filipinos, including my brothers, because I have 3 of them, that are just amazing. The youngest is not a dad yet, but the other 2 are amazing dads. So
Yeah.
it's weird how that works.
Well, and I think that you touched on my father. I know my father was doing what he needed to do. And if anything I learned in my life that I hope I've passed on to my children is that if you want something, you can work for it. If you have a goal, I had this conversation with my oldest the other day, pursue your dreams to the end of the earth, no matter what it takes, because there's going to be stepping stones along the way and things you have to do that might not be directly aligned with that dream, but they're a means to an end. And I think I learned work ethic from my father. He did whatever it took, even though, that was at the cost of some things, to provide for us, and to make a better future, the best future he could for us, no matter what that took. And, in that pursuit for him, I think that he pursued some of his dreams, which was inadvertently, being a minister for a while, but then going into the school system and creating one of the programs that is used through the whole state of Washington. And that's for kids that have literally not been doing their job to graduate high school, but bringing them along and showing them that it's still possible. So, I'm super proud of him. And I think that I took away from all of that, even though I missed him and that I wished he could save me from some situations, the work ethic that I have today to take care of my children as a single mom, help them pursue their dreams, and work as hard as I can to make it happen.
Yeah. And do you think you learned from your dad, though, that no matter how good of a work ethic you have, that maybe something that you are missing is happening behind your back or under your nose that you're not even paying so close attention to, and that maybe there should be a little bit of more like a balance?
Absolutely. And I have to still, to this day, steer that balance back because, even though my goal, especially this last 7 years of building this career that I'm in now, which has afforded me to, help my daughter go to Berkeley and pursue her dreams. I did two things in starting real estate. I knew it was going to take a hustle, to get it going, get it started. And I came into the market that was down. So I thought, I went to my children with some advice from a very, very kind mentor of mine. And they said, you need to go bring your children on board. You need to ask their permission and tell them what it's going to take, and bring them along for the ride instead of just doing what you need to do. Because if they're part of it at those times that I knew it was going to be at me being on the phone a lot or me being hustling at work and not being present in things, there was a means to an end, and it also included helping them toward their dreams of college and different things like that. So I went to them and I said, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take 12 to 24 months of mom just hustling her butt off and not being around a lot. And I need to know that you guys are on board with this. Or it was going to seriously be something that I wasn't going to sacrifice my relationships with them for this, even though I knew this was going to better all of our lives and situation, in the end. So bringing them on board for that was...
Which mentor was that? Because that is a great advice.
So that was actually very early on. I got into real estate with Patty Siebold, and then also the Crime Brings. And the Crime Brings, had children of their own who were grown. They have one actually that graduated, I think, from college the same time as my oldest. But, kind people who literally took me under their wing. I didn't know what I was doing. I had never bought a house before, right? And I thought, this is crazy, right? Everybody's telling me it's a horrible time to do this, but something in me is pulling me toward this and saying, this is what I'm supposed to do. Crazy story about that, by the way. But they were so kind and gentle and just said, you know what, this is going to take a lot of work. And if you're willing to do it, we're willing to mentor you, but you need to bring your children along because it's going to take you away from things. And if they're not on board, you're going to be pulled in two different directions and it's not going to work.
Wow. Wow. I love that because that's what I advise moms a lot. And I talked about balance. And when I talked about balance and what you learned from your dad that he didn't do was you said that you have to pull that balance back. And I love how you said that because there is no balance. I talk about balance like there is, but really there is no balance. And you had defined it just in one word or a couple words. I have to pull that balance back because it's constantly you balancing it and pulling it back and pushing it away. Your work, when I say pushing it away, your work because your children need you. And, going all in with work, having your children's buy-in is another balancing act. And so when people talk about balance, I always say, well, there is no such thing. Because when you look at a gymnast on a balance beam, they're constantly in motion. They're constantly moving just to create that balance. So you create your own balance, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I think you also touched on the fact that you're constantly having to pull it back, and to be self-aware enough to do that is sometimes hard because you're just, as mothers, especially, we're on a mission, right? I'm on a mission to make this happen. And we're very good I think we think we're very good multitaskers, but sometimes realizing that it's not about the multitasking and being good at everything. It's about being present in the moment, which it has been difficult for me at times, and sometimes my kids have to remind me of that, and sometimes they do it very gently and sometimes they scream it like, hello, can you just put the phone down for 5 minutes? I thought you were coming to see, and those are moments that I need. I'm lucky enough to have kids that have been kind and gentle and understanding, but they've also benefited from the fact that I've hustled to make things happen for us, and I had to. I didn't have a choice. When I started in real estate 7 years ago, I failed the test 3 times. And I literally, the last time, took it on my birthday, which could have been the craziest thing ever, right? Worst
Yeah.
birthday ever. And I literally remember walking in there and praying. I was like, God, I can't do this anymore. I can't take the defeat. If this doesn't happen today, like, I'm in charge, right? I'm not. But I remember saying, if this doesn't happen today, I'm not doing it anymore. So you better give me the biggest sign ever, like I'm a kindergartner, or, because I'm moving on, right? And I was the only one there. It was the craziest thing. Only one at the test that day. And I passed. I remember bawling in the waiting room, waiting for my paperwork and just thinking, okay, what now? But just going,
Wow.
but just thanking God for making it happen, because during that whole year leading up to it, I had lost my grandparents. I had had my gallbladder out, and I thought, okay, is life just telling me this is not the avenue? And then failing the test 3 times, and I thought, what am I doing? This is crazy, right? And passed, and then sold 36 homes my first year. So
Dang.
apparently that's what I was supposed to be doing.
You know what a lot of people think when there's a bunch of or a series of, unfortunate event happen, when you're trying to get something accomplished, we think, oh, this must be a sign. But truly, if you dig deeper, it's really a test if that's what you really want.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because God's funny that way.
Oh, and I think it was testing my mettle. I think he was setting up for, this is going to be a road. This is going to be a road where there was weeks where I don't think I saw my kids. I was working 80 to 100-hour weeks, right? And just getting through, at times. But it was worth it. It was worth it in building not only the business, but surrounding myself with people that, number one, kept me humble. Because when you go from that day that I took the test, the little nugget I left out, I was actually given a 20-day notice to evict from our apartment. And I thought,
what
am I going to do?
That's right. I remember this story.
Yeah. So it was literally like this chain of events over that 12 months. And then literally that morning, opening the mail, of which I hated to do because there was so many unpaid bills at that point, going,
been there, done that.
Right? And
you don't want to answer the phone.
No, you don't. And I was like, I got to open this mail, because it looked like this letter that I was just like, something said open this. And then I remember thinking, well, great, this is a great how do you do? I'm going to take my test now, and now there's this extra added pressure of, But I think all of that tested my mettle for what this was going to take, right? He was setting me up for, you know what, girl, this is going to be a tough road. You're coming into a market, all these things. I was like, do you got the grit, is what I felt like he was saying. And I was like, yes, I do. I think the best compliment that I've been given still to this day came from my oldest. And we were having a really rough time at one point because, I was the one that left my marriage. And that was really hard on my children. You make that decision, and it's a decision made very selfishly that impacts a ton of people.
But it's not, though. Let's talk about that a little bit before you move forward with your story.
Sure.
It's not because, I think a lot of us women think that is a selfish decision. But at the same time, if you look at what you put your children through and what they see that isn't healthy for them, that decision could be more of an unselfish decision on the flip side. Only because
I agree.
Yeah, and only because you provide an environment for your children. And if the environment isn't so conducive for them, and you make that tough decision, and I agree, it could be perceived as selfish, and you make that tough decision because, all of a sudden I'm taking them away from their father because of how I feel personally. But in essence, you're removing them from a toxic relationship and exposing them from whatever you're running away from, right?
Sure. And I agree with all of that. And I think what I mean by selfish is that, and maybe selfish isn't the word, is that it was a decision I had to make solely and they couldn't make for me, but yet they were impacted by it exponentially. That ripple effect, and even that affects, my family and my brothers and all of those things that were the norm. We were the couple that I had his nephew come to me and say, oh my gosh, I so want to be like you guys, blah, blah, blah. We hid a lot of things. Now, granted, I, like, know that my children saw some of that fighting and those things going on, and that there wasn't this loving relationship at the end going on. Even though I can honestly tell you, there are things that I love about him and I'll love till the day I die. Look at what he gave me and allowed me to have. But I think back to Brittany, we had a real come to Jesus right before she went to college, because I could feel the anger, and I was the source of all the anger. And I had also brought a man into my life at that point that was a very narcissistic, horrible person. And she was impacted by that also. And she was very angry with me. But I remember before she went to college, we had this big culminating thing. And I don't remember how it all went, so I can't speak directly to it. But it was this moment where I didn't think she liked me at all. You know what I mean? And we had a moment leading up to that where that man actually had sat with us at the table, and he wanted me to, there were moments that he was helpful in, but it was not a good relationship. But he wanted her to tell me something she liked about me, and he wanted me to tell her something. And I don't remember what I told her, because, he goes, don't tell her the things about, she's so good at school and she has great friends and all that. Tell her something, that's meaty that she likes. But then he asked her the same question, and it took her the longest time to answer. And I remember thinking, she does not like me at all, right? And I remember but then the answer that came out still to this day is probably the biggest compliment I got from anybody in my life. And it was, and she cried, and it made me cry. And I thought, oh, she doesn't like me. No, what she said was, Mom, you are the most tenacious, determined person I've ever met in my life. And I hope that I gave that to her. I hope that I think I did, because she brought that up. And I thought, whew, that's huge, because if anything comes out of all the stuff that we go through, if we're not tenacious and determined, there are times when it can drown us and we won't come out of it. There are people that don't come out of it.
It's easy to not come out.
Right? You just get buried in it. And so that was a huge compliment for me. And I thought it did two things for me. It made me have a little more self-love for myself, because I wasn't loving myself. And it also made me realize there are gifts, even though bad things come out of divorce, that I've given my children and that I've exampled to my children, because I think we all as parents look around and go, I do the best, or there's definitely mistakes that I've made. But I think that there's also gifts that we give, and sometimes we don't even know them. It's just exampled through our behavior, and so I've tried to be more cognizant, especially in the present time, of going, what behavior am I exempling to my children? Because they're it. They're why I do everything, and even though they're grown, and I have one going into college, my baby's going into college. I have my son who's, finding his way and deciding what that looks like, his future looks like for him. And my oldest has come home and graduated now, and she's figuring out, what do I do now? Any kind of guidance or something that I've left them, hopefully, in my behaviors and things that I've tried, that's a gift to me. That's a gift to me, because it is about them. When you decide to become a mother, it is about them. It's about another life that you're guiding, and God's blessed you with, which, wow, 3 times for me, and I wasn't going to be a mom. You impact them in ways that you don't even know.
Yeah. They're always watching. They're always watching, even when you think they're not, right?
Oh, for sure. They brought things up that I might go, whoa. So, but like you said, that leads back to the divorce and what you said about being selfish. I think there was things that they were seeing that weren't good, and I think one or more of them have come to me at this point and said, we know you shouldn't be with Dad, but we really don't want you to be with anybody else. Right. And I understand that feeling. Right.
Yeah.
But I think what they were actually saying, because they were still young, was, we don't like what you're choosing. And they were absolutely right. And we should listen to our children. And when you come out of divorce and you're choosing other partners, because they were absolutely right. And I didn't listen to them. And that relationship that impacted them for 7 years and impacted my life, I should have listened. You know, it's okay to listen to your children. My oldest, she hasn't really been in a relationship yet, you know? So at times I'm like, well, what do you know? Right. Well, there's been some things in my current relationship, which has been a blessing to my life, that she has shared with me through outside observing of the relationship and helped me to understand him more, or help me understand my reaction to what he might do more. Because number one, she's very much like him. But having that has been a gift, because, and I had to stop myself from going, she's never been in a relationship she doesn't understand, to going, you know what, this is valuable input. And you didn't listen the last time and they were absolutely right. You need to consider this.
Yes, you know, children are so smart. And I think we use our authority way too much, to a point where we're like, what do you know? You're just
Right.
my child and you haven't lived enough life. But if you get in tune with your children and what they say, they really do have a lot of opinion, and an opinion that's very intellectual, you know, a very
Absolutely.
intelligent opinion. But they
Right.
need to be heard, they need to be talked to and conversed to. And, you know, involving your children in every aspect of your life is truly a game changer for me, because, like, with my kids, I'm very busy too. And I tell them all the time, like, you demand of my time when I forget about you, because there's going to be moments in my career, because I'm a hustler. Like, I'm a workaholic, but I'm also a motherhood holic. I also
Right.
love you guys to death. You know, I'll do anything. I'll quit everything for you. But, you know, they don't want you to do that. But I just tell them, like, demand of my time when you need it.
Oh, and I think that's important. You know, I used to feel sad about that, right? That they had to speak up, but I don't feel sad about it, because we are hustling to provide for them. And, you know, we want the best for all of them. So I don't feel bad about it now when they speak up. I'm actually grateful for it. I'm like, you know what? You're right. I have not been paying attention. You know what? I too need time with you. And I don't even realize it half the time, you know, because I just feel like they've grown
Yeah.
up and they're off doing their thing and whatever. But
Yeah.
you know what? I think that what has said a lot to me lately is, you know, my youngest is went through a rough patch, her and I, because I think it's funny. I think God makes it when they're getting ready to go off to college, where they're just kind of little stinkers, right? And let me just
Little
say, she's
stinker.
been an absolute shit, right, for about the last 6 months. And I love her to death. But I think part of that happens because you need to be able to, and she's my baby especially, right? You need to be able to go, they need to go do their thing, right? And
You
you
have to
clean.
empower them.
Right. And that's what I want for her. But inadvertently, it's funny because it comes back around. And, you know, I've had a couple rough goes the last couple weeks, you know, business wise and stuff, you know, and they're very in tune to mama's mood, no matter how much I try to hide it. Right. But for her and my oldest to just kind of swing into action and go, what can we do? And sometimes that's just taking care of the house and home, right? You know, they're 18 and 22, and you know, or hey, mom, I'm running by Starbucks. Can I drop one by your work? Right? Just taking the little things, you know, and going, what can I do, mom, to bless your life? Wow, you know, how blessed am I? You know
To
that
give
they're
back to you. For
right,
them to be self-aware that, gosh, I know what my mom really enjoy. It's the little things. And I'm just going
right.
to give back to her and do these little things for her. Those are like the moments I freaking love.
Right. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, I have it so good. I mean, I have 3 healthy children, 3 productive children, 3 very empathetic children. I have 2 nephews who have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And I think that was a gift, not only to my brother, it was a gift to our whole family, because it made us be
Wow.
very aware of, I'll give you an example. I've always noticed, because I've had multiple mothers call me through my children growing up, and them being a part of my nephew's life and being very in tune to that, is they can be in a room and there can be somebody struggling with something, whether it be very physically apparent as a physical disability or a mental disability, and my children tend to gravitate toward them. And it's amazing to me
Wow.
every time, because sometimes you won't even know that this person has like a mental, you know, thing, whether it be autism or something, you know, because there's strains of autism, because I also have an autistic nephew. And sometimes you're not even aware, right? But my children end up being friends with them, right? It's like this gravitational pull, something in them that I just, every time it just brings me joy and brings me,
Yes.
like, I'm just verklempt by it, right? Because I've had two mothers, especially with my son, call me at different moments and just say, I want to thank you. And I'm like, for what? And they're like, your son is amazing. One was in kindergarten when he literally spent every recess with Cody Peterson. I remember Cody Anderson, excuse me. Literally, this little girl came in the first day of kindergarten, and I thought my son, because he was a mama's boy, was going to be the one that when I dropped him off was going to just be bawling his eyes out, right? Not wanting to go. Well, little blonde Cody Anderson comes into class, and she's just got these tears running down her face, right? And she's just silently crying, right? Gets off the bus, and she happens to be sitting right next to him. Her little name tag is there. And I'm like, oh, he didn't even, it was like mom was pushed aside and he was all over it, right? Spent every recess and every little time period with her to make sure Cody was okay with coming to school every day, right? So I was blessed because I didn't have to worry about separation anxiety for my boy because he was so focused on making sure poor little Cody was taken care of. Well, then fast forward when he had to go to Excel, we didn't have to, but we chose to move him on in accelerated learning. And there was only one other little girl that was going with him, and she was really struggling with going there because she was leaving all of her friends, right? They take them out of class and they put them in this class with 30 other kids like them for accelerated learning. And her mom called me about a month in, and she just said, I just have to thank you. Your son has literally spent every recess, every lunch taking care of my daughter, and is the only reason that she has decided to stay there and take advantage of this opportunity. And I was like,
Wow.
wow. I was like, so I've been blessed with healthy children, empathetic children, children that just want to inadvertently give and bless other people.
Good
the way that
humans.
I want to. Good
Great
humans. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Who cares about, I do care about the education and everything, but I was talking to somebody the other day and I just said, you know what? They're like, wow, you have a daughter that graduated with Berkeley, from Berkeley with an astrophysics degree. And I said, I remember at that moment thinking, that's phenomenal, right? It really is. That accomplishment is amazing. But you know what? I'm so grateful for just having children that are good people, and
Yep.
we all have our faults, but they're
Yep.
just genuine, good human beings. And
Well,
that's
and
the biggest gift.
as a mom, it's such a huge accomplishment because when you're a new mom or a younger mom, you and I are older moms now, but younger moms, you tend to think of like, I'm going to fuck this up,
Exactly.
and then
I remember thinking that.
yeah. And then they grow up or I don't want to fuck it up like my dad did, like you do that and then you just do your thing and then they come back to you and say, and you get thank you.
Right. Right. And I think my thank yous come through their behaviors that I see, that I get to be privileged enough to see them do, in life, whether it be, educational accomplishments or personal accomplishments, or physical accomplishments, and, just blessing other people. Because I think for me, through doing this whole journey of my life, this last 48 years is, at first it started out as trying to earn people's love and respect and all of that. But then I grew into this thing where I just genuinely wanted to help somebody else's life be better. And how could I do that? And some of that came through gifts that my parents gave me along the way, including my stepmom, because we were involved in customer service things very early on. And so I come from that old adage as, no matter what, the customer's always right. What can we do to make their dreams come true? What can we do to make this come to fruition? It doesn't matter. Our job is to guide them through this process. And now this process is real estate for me. And make it as seamless as possible, because all of it can be stressful, right? And even when they're wrong, they're right. And it's just our job to make the journey be as easy as it can be, because it's stressful, and bring that whole thing to fruition. And now I get to bring that whole thing in fruition in this house, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
first time
true.
home buyers are my most favorite, right? Because I was a first time home buyer at 46 years old.
Wow.
46 years old,
And
first
you're
time home buyer.
48?
And then 48. I bought my first house 2 years ago.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yes. And
That's
for
so
me,
cool.
I
You're
remember
never too old, right?
No. And
To
I
buy
remember
your first
walking into
home.
my house thinking, holy crap, I did this, right? I did
Wow.
this. And just thinking,
You should see
you
your
know what?
smile, sister. You'll see it on YouTube. So
it was awesome to give that to my children, right? To show them that even at this age, anything is possible. I came from getting that notice of 20 days to evict, which, right, I don't even know that I've actually shared that with my children. They're in the kitchen listening right now. But that day that I took my test to, 5 years later, I got to buy them a house, and I get to help my daughter go to Berkeley. And now I get to help my daughter go to Western, and I didn't have that growing up. We were poor. We were very, very poor. And my dad did the best he could and worked multiple jobs, and we barely ever saw him. But for me to be able to make their dreams a little bit easier, because at home they have a home to come to, and
Yes.
we're not stressed about food, and we're not stressed about the electricity and all of that. If I can just give them that, so they have that solid platform
Basic.
to go,
Mhm.
right? My youngest, I got to tell you, she is going to school this year debt free because she worked to get scholarships. She wrote letters. She, did
You
all
go,
of
girl.
this platform to make this happen. And she's so excited about it. And then to work jobs the last 2 summers so that she wanted to go buy her own stuff for her dorm. And I was like, but I want to do that. And she's like, no, Mom, but you don't understand. I want to do that. And I'm happy
Yep.
that I could, because you work hard and
Yeah, you just have to empower your children. And I love how you set yourself as an example for your children, because you talk about behavior and behaving in a certain way that set a good example for your children, right? Because the gift that I get from this podcast is really articulating, and it doesn't have to be me, but things that I've thought about. My thoughts can come out from someone else's. And like the balance that you said, you had to pull it back, and you talk about behaving in a certain way. So everything that you do is showing your children. It's like, I always talk about this on social media. Teaching your children is like telling them what to do. But showing your children is the best way to teach. And so with you saying the behaviors that you have, you always try to have them in mind when you think about your behavior first before you do it. Or whenever you're doing it, you remember that whatever I'm doing is to show my children that you can buy a home at 46 years old. You can be, a great mom no matter what struggle you have.
Sure.
You could spend time with your family, even though you're a hustler and you work 18-hour days. You could still make time. It's all about decision making. Really, it's making choices.
Well, and you touched on it earlier. It doesn't matter how you should be self-aware of your behaviors and make decisions based on, there are 3 lives in my life, especially watching what I do, right? Whether I'm aware of it or not, they're paying attention. And I think that we don't give our children enough credit, because they are watching and observing, and they're one-upping us. And I hope they one-up me. I hope they one-up me like by 1,000, right? Because
Yep.
They
that is a reflection of you.
Well, and it's a gift to me to see that, because then I think, okay, I did that thing right, because we're always so hard on ourselves and we look at all the things we've done wrong or the things we might have done wrong by them. But you know what? I think it's important that we focus on the good gifts that we gave them, and we actually help elevate those in them when we see them, because I think we do as a society spend a lot of time concentrating on the bad. What did we do wrong? Because here's the deal. God made us. We are imperfect, right? That's why we ask for forgiveness, right? That's why we say we own up to what we've done. We try to be, the goal is to try to be the best human being, that you can be. And we're all gonna fuck that up. I have many times. I've made a ton of mistakes, but what? It's learning from them and moving on, and not sitting in that self-pity and that self-wallow and beating ourselves up, because you know what? We're never God. None of us, we can't be perfect. We never will be, but I think that our duties are to help our children realize that they need to own up when they've done something wrong, or when somebody, and that doesn't make you less of a person. That actually makes you a better person. That makes you self-aware. That makes you know that, what? I have wronged another human being, and it's good for me to go say, I did this. I made this mistake. I'm asking forgiveness. You may not always get it, but you know what? You're giving yourself forgiveness. And that's huge. Because for me, I was carrying around a lot of baggage from childhood, from my divorce, from choosing that wrong partner. And in that year and a half after that, choosing not to date anybody and just focus on me and learn why I was making these choices and where they were coming from, was the best year and a half I've spent probably in my 48 years. Just learning why I was making some of the decisions I make. And I still make mistakes, because I think
You always will.
well, and we have learned behaviors that we learned growing up, right? Because we just were trying to survive some moments, right? So we made decisions, and there were also behaviors that were emulated from our parents that we chose to take on. And deconstructing some of those behaviors takes time. So giving myself grace to go, yep, you made that same decision again, but you know what? What are we going to take out of that? We're not going to do that again. We're going to make this decision differently. We're going to stop and be more self-aware. And so that you won't continue, you can destruct those behaviors that are not good.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said, because that is, again, being self-aware. And I read a lot and I think a lot when I'm reading. I don't read speed read anymore. I used to have that notoriety of I read a book every week, but like, what did I learn from reading a book every week?
Sure. Yeah.
Not much. It was just
Right.
more of like speed reading, and there's a lot of hacks and how to read fast and get, at least learn one or two things from reading a
Content.
book. But why does it take me a whole book to learn one or two things? Why can I really absorb everything that I learn in like a couple pages and read
Sure.
it with a lot of thinking? So one of the things that you said was, take ownership. And this book that I'm reading, The Way of the Warrior, says it's not about owning things, it's about taking ownership.
Absolutely. And
And
you know what?
and making the right choices. And if it's the wrong choice, then also taking ownership for the wrongdoing and changing your, taking a detour because that was a wrong, path, then go change your path.
Well, and absolutely, you can always make a different decision. I had a friend recently, a very good friend, didn't understand why we had been in business together, and then we chose to not do business together, but something happened in there and I couldn't understand what happened. And I kept on reaching out to her, and it took 2 years for her to finally give me grace enough to say, I really need to talk to you. I know you've been trying to get a hold of me. Let's meet. Well, in that meeting, she was gracious enough to tell me what I had done wrong. And I had truly wronged her. And you know what? I could have made a decision in that moment to make excuses about it or own it. And you know what? It didn't matter why I did what I did. I owned what I did, and I owned more. What I owned was the way it impacted. And in that moment, making that decision brought us back together, because she expected the opposite, me to totally make excuses, whatever. She came fully with, she's going to excuses. There's going to be 1,000 reasons why she did this. And when I said what I said and just owning it, we both started crying, because she was like, when she stopped, she was like, I didn't expect you to just say what you said. She said, I thought you would make 1,000 excuses, and now I really don't know what to say to you because you completely owned it. And that's not been what has happened in my life. And I will tell you, thank God for that, because this is a woman who is a friendship I know I'll have for the rest of my life. And I know a lot of people, Corrine, but you know what? I think that doesn't matter. The circle that you hold close, there's people that you love from here, and there's people that you love from here, from a distance, right? Arm's length. And it doesn't mean that you can't love on them, but you have to have them out inner circle.
Yeah.
And I think that's smart. That's not bad. That's smart, because everybody has an impact on your life, right? And I never want to wish anybody ill will, but I do have to say, I have to remove you from the inner circle at this point. Yeah. It's not good for either one of us. And I don't want to breed resentment, because resentment is a relationship killer, and it just breeds poison and things into your soul. And I don't want to go there. It is. It's just toxic. And I've chosen to be, I don't want to have any part of that. I don't want to be a gossip mill. I don't want to be negative. I think we all need to have a 5-minute funeral about things at times. And that was a really good advice given to me.
Or like 30 seconds.
Right? Let's just do it. Bitch about it, get over it, right? The thing is that it is what it is.
Don't build a nest there.
Right? Choose to move on. You know what I mean? And then if you're going to revisit it, have people around you enough that just go, really, do you want to go back there? And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, no, you're right. I don't.
You know, I'm in customer service too, and I really what I learned is that because I think I used to be a combative person, even if
Mhm.
I'm serving people,
Sure.
and really find excuses and reasons why it's not my fault. And
Right.
it's not me, it's my company's fault, you
Right.
know? And so
Right.
what I find that as soon as I take ownership of it, because I am a representative of a company that wronged whatever wrong they think we wronged them, it's like there, like your friend said, like there's nothing else I could say. You already took ownership with it. Like what
It
else
popped
can
the
I say?
bubble. It
Yeah.
deflated the situation. You know, they're coming
Yes.
at you already like with their dukes up, right? When you feed into that, just like a toddler having a tantrum, it's just going to go nowhere productive, right? So for me, like you said, we are a representative of what we put out there, right? Whether we refer somebody in my business, I refer a lot of people, cleaners, contractors, all that stuff. They're an extension of me. And even if they do something wrong, I'm the one that referred them. And, you know, bad on me for not checking in, seeing what the current work is like, you know, being diligent enough to say, this is truly a trusted referral, because that is going to reflect on me, right? And like you said, phone call, I had my my boyfriend say, I don't know how you're job. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he goes, every day it's like problem solving, and you have people coming at you and they're usually angry. And I said, you know what? The thing is I no longer, I used to take it personally. I don't take it personally.
Yes.
What I take it as is, you know what? We have this problem here. And sometimes before I even call, I know about the problem and I'm coming with solutions. I'd rather come from a place of
Yes.
solutions. This is what we're going to do to fix it. I'm going to own it. And you know what? Be fixed. I give actually every one of my listing people the 99 things that can go wrong in a transaction, right? And I hand it to them pretty early on in our appointment, right? And they're like, what, right? And I say, you know what? I want you to look over that list real quick. And they look through and they're like death and probate and all these things. And I say, now I want you to realize everything on that list has a solution.
I
So
have I
before
have
you,
I have a name for that list. I
what
got
is it?
99 problems, but a closing ain't one.
Right, right. And that's the thing. It's like, you know what? All these problems have been solved. So before you pick up the phone, please just put this on your fridge. And before you freak out, realize when you call me, I'm going to have a solution. And if I don't, I'm going to find one, because we're going to get you
Yes.
home. You know what? I've had very, very
Mhm.
transactions fail because of something I could do for them. They were failure by choice, that they chose to get out, or something wasn't right. It wasn't the home. Something was wrong with the home. I am never going to let it fail for something that I could do the problem. So, and that's
Yeah,
just
but then you also has to see that, because I have a lot of people that come to me when they have a problem. Case in point, a woman getting married this just past August and could not get a hold of the person she bought a dress for. Like some random problem. Like, hey, I
okay.
can't get a hold of this person. Facebook messaged me. What is your solution? And I said to her, you can use the lawyer solution, like drop a lawyer, like that you're
Right.
going to talk to a lawyer if they're not going to return your call. But people
Sure.
don't even know where to get from point A to point B, because she's already stressed out, because
Right.
she paid for her dress in January, and I'm not even in the wedding industry whatsoever. She
Right.
paid her dress in January, and July came and she still has not gotten a hold of the boutique that she
Dressmaker.
bought the dress from, and
Uh-huh.
then all these stuff. And so I held her hand through the process, and I said, hey, okay, call this person and let them know I sent you. Make sure you tell me where you're at, so I can, because you have a small window, girl. You know,
Right.
we don't have a lot of room here to get this thing done. And like, I didn't get paid for that, right? But I love doing that, because I feel like that is a huge compliment that somebody would actually come to me and think that I could solve their problem.
Right. And you're like, I'm not even in the wedding. I call that, I always say to people, it's like inadvertently, when I am helping somebody solve problems, which I love to do too, I'm selfishly being blessed by it, because I'm like, it's a win, right? Especially if you can bring it to fruition and guide them and stuff. You're like, wow, cool. You know what? I did that. Like you said, I'm not part of the wedding industry, but we made this happen. So I selfishly always say, I'm getting something from that. When I bless other people, I get something from that because I
Yes.
see the smile on the face, the fact that they got the home they wanted, the fact that they got to go to the college that they wanted, the fact that, the problem was solved. You know, I think that's a gift to both the party giving it and the party receiving,
Yes.
right?
But I think the more you put out there too, and I truly 120% believe in it, is that it will come to you from a different person because of the
Sure.
energy that you put out. So if I helped that woman and I made zero money, because it's, when we're in the business world, we talk about profit, we talk about revenue, we talk about all these numbers. That
Right.
really doesn't matter. It's the value you put out in the marketplace, whether it's a direct relationship to what you're doing or not. It's just, you just solve problems, and that person may not be able to afford to do whatever you have service wise, but
Sure.
who knows what that person, who that person knows, who knows if their parents are moving in, like in real estate, moving in and moving to Vancouver from
Mm-hmm.
another state, and because you help them, you
Right.
come to mind first, whether the help that you did prior to that was in relation to real estate or not. You come to mind, and that
Absolutely.
comes from another source, and that's what people need to understand. Like, your help doesn't have to make money all the time, because
Nope.
it'll come from something else, and it'll rain too. It'll make
Oh,
it rain.
absolutely, exponentially. I think a little tidbit that I want to share too is something that came from my mentors. Again, the crime brings were like, at one point, I was just working those 80 to 100 hours and giving and trying to be there present for my child and still help people the way that I like. And I was getting pretty run down and pretty exhausted. And I remember Jeff came to me and said, you're going to burn out. And he goes, and I said, no, I love this. I love what I do. And he's like, I understand that, honey. He goes, but I just see a burnout and I don't want you to not love this, right? And I said, he goes, what can I do to help you? And I said, no, I'm good and everything. And he said, I need you to stop. And I said, okay. And he goes, you love blessing people and I can see that. He goes, and what you get from that is blessing you. He goes, but by you not letting other people bless you, you're robbing them of that same thing. And that was so impactful for me because I was the person that thought, nope, I can do it all. I don't need anybody to help me. Moreover, I felt like it made me less if I asked for help. I was going to be this big, strong woman, right, that just could handle it
Yep,
all. And he said, you need to allow somebody else to be blessed by helping
it's
you.
true.
And it's
It's
okay
true.
to ask for help. And you need to actually example that to your children that, you know what, because, I think especially my oldest in some way, for some reason, there's this stigma, I think a little bit with all of my children that it makes you weak or something. I don't know exactly. I don't want to speak for them to ask for help, or it makes you stupid, or you know what I mean? Especially if you're in that
Mom, that's so
intelligence
stupid.
world, right? Right? If you ask for help, you look dumb, right? And I'm like, no. If you don't know, the best thing to do is to ask for help. And you know what? You're letting somebody else give the gift of knowledge that they've learned. Because you know what? The reality is, Corrine, everything you and I've learned, that's from somewhere else. And we've just taken it and hopefully made it better. And our job is to give it to somebody
Yeah.
else. So when I mentor people in real estate, that's exactly why I do it. Everybody's like, well, you should get paid for that. I don't really care if I get paid. Okay. That's like nothing for me. For
Yeah.
me, what gets my heart and makes me happy is the fact that if somebody wants to come to me, first of all, and ask for help. Wow. How great is that they think that I have that to give, right? That knowledge and whatever by observing me. But me seeing them prosper, that doesn't take anything away from me. That actually blesses
Yeah.
me, right?
And there's no money that can pay for that. There's no amount of
No,
money that can pay for, like, intangible things like that is just what keeps me alive. Um,
exactly.
but I think as human beings, we get wrapped into too much about business and numbers and less about being human. And I think I
Sure.
always talk about humanizing your business, and so I can talk all day about it, but I do want to talk about your hustle, because this is all
Uh-huh.
about mother hustling. And I know that so many listeners can benefit from your struggle, from that being evicted or having the letter of eviction. And probably, did you sell a house within those 20 days, or how did you actually have to move out? How did all
No,
that
I
transpired?
didn't. So You know, all of my family, none of my family is wealthy, right? There was nobody that was going to help me do this career, which was one thing that scared me, because when you do real estate, it costs money to do real estate, right? You have to have your fees for licensing, your fees for,
A lot of money.
CCAR, all the associations. There's a lot of money going out, which people don't realize. So for me, I thought, great, I have this license, now what I do? And I knew there was about $1,500 that I needed plus money for rent, right? And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? Well, I had cleaned houses. I had done everything I could do because my ex wasn't making there, so I wasn't really getting a lot of help child support wise. He was doing what I could, but he really wasn't making the day, right? And it just can't. So I was cleaning houses. You know, I was what I had to do to bring in the money, right? So that, but then I had this uncle, and he wasn't even a current uncle. He had divorced my aunt, and I called and I asked him for money, and he told me no. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I need $1,300, right? And I thanked him for even considering it. And I said, it was a really hard phone call for me to make, but I thanked him for listening and everything. Well, he ended up calling me a week later and he said, you know what? I believe in you so much. I'm going to do something that I never do. I'm going to loan family, because he still considered me family. I'm going to loan you the money. And he goes, actually, I'm not going to loan it to you. I'm just going to give it to you. And I said, I don't really feel comfortable with that. And he goes, well, I don't really want to talk about that. I'm sending you the money today. So he sent me the money to get me my license, and everything parked, all the fees that I needed to pay. And in the meantime, I had been cleaning and I had been doing some contract work because I was a general contractor and had a business, but that wasn't doing well because of the economy either. I had this client that I had met that asked us to do a remodel on his house because he was going to rent it. Well, when I told him what I was doing, we become really good friends. And he said, you know what, I'm going to give you this house to sell. And I was like, I thought you wanted to rent it. And I said, he goes, nope. He goes, but I'm not going to make it easy on you. He goes, I know what I need for the house. And if you can't get me that, very least it'll be at least be a sign in the yard and you can hopefully get some.
Wow.
Well, that was my first day in. I walked in with this list and I was so excited. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was scared to death, right?
Hey, but the most important part too is, before you keep going, is people believed in you when you didn't even believe in yourself. And
That's
that is
exactly right.
so important when you're in the hustle, because if you can't believe in yourself, but then other people, it gives you fire. It really does. And why did they believe in you? It's because you were seen doing it. You weren't just having your hand out, sitting on the couch, help me, and felt like the victim. You let that victim mentality go. And I really want to highlight that, because a lot of people would have been just play victim, right? And go to welfare and do all kinds of, and there's nothing wrong with welfare if you need it, but you did not settle and you went for it, and people saw your tenacity. Here we go again, your tenacity, and they were willing to help you. So keep going.
That wasn't an option for me, Corrine. It was, this is what I'm doing. I mean, God said, you passed, this is what I was doing. So you were absolutely right. To have that uncle that called me back a week later and gave me the money to land my license, believed in me enough, right? And then to have this friend of mine who I was renovating his house believe in me enough to say, at least to get you a sign in the yard. Well, the exponential blessings that came from that and was crazy. It was literally like a movie. So I listed that house. And I told him, you're asking too much money. It's going to be a low appraisal. I don't care if somebody wants this house. They will pay cash money for it. They'll bring the difference to the table. And I said, okay, didn't matter. I just changed my thinking. It's a sign in the yard. Literally, I kid you not, Corrine, the first week, a buyer came to the house and called me from the house. And the first thing you're told in real estate is get the person in the office first. You don't know whether they're qualified. Do not meet them at the home. Oh, no. I was going to show them this. I met her at the house, and I still remember Cats to this day. She was my very first home sale, and she was a spy, let me tell you. I walked in to show her my home that I had listed, and I said, hey, do you have a buyer's agent, blah, blah, blah. She said, oh. I said, okay.
She said no.
And she said, I don't want an agent. I've been working with an agent for the last 9 months, and they don't do shit. I don't need an agent. If I want to buy this house, I'm going to buy this house. Well, let me tell you, by the end of our hour and a half talk in that house, she signed a buyer's agreement, which almost nobody gets signed, and agreed to use me as her agent. And wow. I didn't sell her that house, but I found her a house within the next week. and she bought it, a house on the train tracks of all places, and she loves
Dang.
it to this day. And we closed on that house in 30 days. I met another buyer, did the same thing at the house a week later, sold him a house in that first 45 days,
Wow.
and then sold this house. It did come in low appraisal, and he did bring cash to the table. So I sold 4 houses in the first 45 days.
Holy
And
shit.
then, yeah, and then another buyer came from that, and I listed her $500,000 house, and she bought it from me. So 6 houses in the first 60 days.
What? You see, people,
So,
you
yeah,
can't give up on your freaking dreams. You have to just keep doing, because the energy that you put out, that's why I believe in energy so much, because you, I mean, the ripple that happened with you, just like, I'm gonna own this, I'm gonna do this, this is what I am made for. Uncle called back. When you make that decision, somehow it sends this frequency to the universe, and then it comes back multiplying it. I'm telling
oh,
you, I know I'm a
I
crazy lady
believe you
talking about
100%.
that.
No, you're not. We talk about it. Actually, Francis is my partner and teammate right now, and we talk about the energy you put out there, right, and how it comes back, no matter how the struggle is, right? Because the market's weird right now. But I want to go back to tell you that uncle that gave me the money said he wanted to give it to me again. That first check I got, I not only sent him his money back, didn't be a career with interest in 30 days. I sent that money back to him. I felt that was important. I felt like I needed to do that because I felt like it was the honorable thing. And he blessed my life
Yes.
and literally propelled me into the career that I have today, because what came from that literally was me getting to buy a house, me getting to help my daughter with college, me getting to put
Yep.
through braces and give them all the gifts, that just help them have better starts in life, better things. Because
Give
you know what?
yeah, give credit where credit is due. And don't mean to
Right?
cut you off, but people think, oh, I'm just, I'm going to borrow you $100. I know it's not a lot, but I know it's going to help you, but you don't know how literally your energy goes from this to, like, it goes wide. And I talked
Right?
about in my speaker reel about how you ripple, you'll never know where it went. And
Right?
the sweetest part is when it comes back to you and say, that little help you told me about,
Right?
look at where I'm at now. Or
Right?
that little help that you gave me, like maybe a freaking loaf of bread that you gave me, like, it's so little, but you know what, it gave me hope that people are still nice and people are still good. And it changed my mind about, all these judgmental thoughts that I have. And
Right?
it opened up like the floodgate of all these good things. But that's what your uncle did for you.
Right. Well, just having him believe in me. And then, there was many other people. It was like you said, there was so many people that just kind of, my mom buying me groceries, sustaining me, with, everything, just being present in my kids' lives, and taking them to things so that I could work, God love her. And then Patty, the designated broker of the first brokerage
Yeah.
that she literally, I remember her saying to me, if you want this, because I asked her for the money first, and this I think is important. And she said, honey, I'm not going to give you the money. She goes, and I know that's going to be hard for you to hear. She goes, but if this is supposed to happen, you will find a way to make it happen. She goes, and that's,
Wow.
you're going to see this later. You won't see it now. She goes, but this is a gift that I'm giving to you. And she goes, and I know where it's going to lead. And she was absolutely right. I had
Yes.
to launch for it, I had to fight for it, and I had to find a way. I couldn't be handed to me, because what came from that, the 36 homes, then the 40 something homes, then a banner year, 50 something homes, and
In a
literally
down
going
market.
right, and going from that to from not knowing whether I was going to have a place for me and my kids, to being able to do the things that I didn't have growing up, or that I just wanted to bless them with for their hard work in the Excel program, and not be able to say, I
Wow.
can't send you there because, we can't afford it, there's no way my daughter would have been able to go to Berkeley if I wasn't blessed by this career,
That's amazing.
yeah. So it's just, I've just been blessed upon blessed upon blessed,
Wow, Dawn.
of
You
this.
have
So,
done a great job just just going for it. And I compliment you and I give you kudos for all the hard work that you put in and all the fruits that you're able to take advantage of, transferring it to your children. What what are your children's name and what are your messages to them? Every single one of them.
So my oldest, Brittany, I would say my message to her right now is to just go for it. She's in a place where, you get out of college and then you kind of just don't know what's next, right? You've been in this whole mode of education. I just want her to go for whatever she wants. And, I want her to not be afraid. I lived a lot of my life, right? Fear of making that next step, fear of failure, right? I think I step out of that every time something amazing comes from it, right? And I grow exponentially when I don't live out of that fear, right? And let it rule me. Courtney, God love him. I just want him to find his way, right? And I've been blessed enough to allow him to have a couple years of high school to just find what his passion is, right? And I think it's the same message. Just choose something and be the best at it, right? And choose something that you love if you can, right? Because then out of that love and that passion comes growth and opportunity, right? And for my youngest, she's Dakota. She's just a little spitfire. A lot of her call her mini me. And I think she's a fighter. Let me tell you, she will just like fight tooth and nail if she believes in something, but I also, for her, I want her to settle her spirit a little, you know what I mean? It's not, you don't got to fight all the time. Right. And you don't have to be so judgmental. Work hard for you and what you want, even if other people aren't working to your level. Right. That's something even in real estate that I had to do. Right.
Yeah.
I never joined a team because I knew my work that I gave 150% and could truly say that to somebody and not be lying. And I didn't want to have bad feelings about other teammates if they weren't working at my level. And I also knew I just needed to do this for me, right? Everybody was like, join a team, you'll get leads, you'll get this. No, I knew if I didn't do this for myself, I wasn't going to be successful at it.
Yep.
And that's what for her. I want her to just go, I'm doing this for me. It's not about all y'all, right? It's not about what your work level is. And I worked harder than you and I've done more than you. It's just about me. And what are you doing for you and your future, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. You're blessed to have had some really good mentors and some people that really believed in you. And that's just it. Like somebody believed in me and somebody helped me. So I'm paying it forward,
Right.
and so you can pay it forward through your children. You can pay it forward through your career. You can pay it forward through giving, just plain flat giving and helping people without any agenda. And I really love your journey. Your journey is something that needed to be heard. And I'm so honored that it was heard here on my podcast. And before I ask you the last question, where can we find Dawn?
Well, I'm on all social media thanks to my children. Are you there? Sorry,
Yes.
I'm on all social media thanks to my children. Instagram, it's just DL Jensen 71. And then my Facebook page is Dawn Jensen. And then you can actually find me at Northwest Houses, the number 4 sale.com. You can search all inventory and anything real estate related there.
Wonderful, Dawn. I commend you for all your hard work and all your success. Last question before I let you go. What is Dawn Jensen's definition of mother hustler?
I see a mother hustler as somebody who is just doing the best she can to raise amazing human beings, all while killing it with a great career. Hopefully that is her passion, and just making stuff happen while blessing other people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sister. I am honored that you came on and we made time for this. I appreciate your hustle. I appreciate your motherhood. I appreciate you as a human being.
Well, thank you for having me. I really, really feel honored that you asked.